Welcome to Brainstorm MTG. I'm ELD, and this is Fast Effect Double Speed Magic the Gathering now from ELD's Time Vault Games in Bellingham, Mass. That's right, I've opened up my own card shop here, and this is our first Legacy Open. 32 players, a great turnout, super busy all day, and now I get to see what some of the fun was. We've got turn 1 Chalice of the Void off of Ancient Tune for Justin on Eldrazi post. Rodney here, rocking Dreadstill. Been doing quite well with it. And it looks like Justin taking 2 more. Cannot see the card. I believe we're able to adjust for the glare in a little bit. Sorcerer's Spyglass, there we go. We see Dreadnought, Delvers, Polluted Delta, Mishra's Factories. Let's see what he names. I'm going to assume it's Factory. Figure that out shortly if Rodney starts activating them. A Cavern of Souls, and most likely Matter Reshaper there at 3 mana. And it is Matter Reshaper. Kind of a necessary evil in the Eldrazi decks. It's a role player. It stops you from really getting completely blown out. And it looked like Stan's still coming down here. This is giving some pause to Justin. Coming in with 3 damage. And there's a second Factory. So I'm not sure what he would have named with that Sorcerer's Spyglass. Very interesting. Must have been the Flooded Strand. Looks like we've got a block and getting ready for a double pump here. So after blocks, the Factory can pump itself, and then that other Factory can bring it to a 4/4. So it looks like Justin going the mana denial route. Perhaps underestimating just how solid these Mishra's Factories could be, in particular underneath this standstill. And Matter Reshaper chains into yet another Matter Reshaper. Almost the ideal situation there. And we're going to crack Standstill. For a threat that gets countered. Basic Island being found into a True Name Nemesis, and that is a huge threat in this situation. Life totals relatively high. Delver being discarded end of turn. Rodney's got a full grip and a True Name, ensuring that Eldrazi post does not have a ton of turns left. True Name going to block that all day long. Justin happy to cash in his Matter Reshaper, trying to get some more mana on board, perhaps to be able to go over the top of this True Name. Be able to outrace it, and those Factories are really an issue there, accelerating the clock. Really can't stabilize with a True Name on board. Wasteland coming in, and yet another True Name. And this is looking like a 1 or 2 turns left for Justin. Of course, the difficulty, there's really just no stabilizing. Even dropping some huge threats, you really just have to race. You cannot kind of have that tempo shift of getting a big blocker, causing Rodney to slow his attack. I mean, this is just all out. Warping Whale, perhaps. Nope, I'm not actually sure what that instant speed effect was. Perhaps a not nameless inversion. There's a similar card there from Eldrazi they sometimes play. Regardless, we've got another Standstill coming down. Let me know in the comments if you know what that card that was just played is. But these True Names are backed up by yet another Standstill. Yeah, this is going to be very, very tough. Rodney just an overwhelming amount of card advantage, and he's got some threats that are going to be basically impossible for Justin to answer from here. Justin down to 1. A Steam Vents from Rodney. Just straight savage, still rocking shock lands and putting up results. That would just strictly be better as a volcanic island. That is only a budget concern. And Rodney's still continually putting up excellent results, despite not actually having an optimal list. All right, so Rodney up a game here, looking to sideboard. Looks like he's considering Daze and Standstill, trimming back a little bit. Standstill in particular is a key card. It is perhaps acceptable to cut back on that from a theory crafting perspective, just because of how often Eldrazi can get ahead on board. It's not the type of card that you want to play from behind. But if you can go with a neutral board, or certainly if you're ahead, man, it is a real challenge for other players to figure out the correct line. In general, the best case scenario from kind of a control versus control perspective is to break it with a card like Accumulated Knowledge for a 1 during their end step. Ideally, you'd like to get to the point where they have 7 cards in hand, and you just run out an AK and they draw 3 more cards and then have to discard 3 during their end step. That's really the best case, but you don't always have the ability to do that, and that's what makes Dreadstill such a problem to play against. The card Standstill in particular really does force you to make the right decision, and very often when you misassess that situation, you actually are just handed a game loss is how it ends up going. If you're pushing when you should be slowing down, or you're slowing down when you should be going pedal to the metal, very often that's just insurmountable in terms of the playing directly into the Dreadstill's hand, giving them the resources to essentially combo you out with Phyrexian Dreadnoughts, or giving them the time to assemble the counter magic to completely shut down your entire game plan. So very interesting deck that people are not that familiar with. We'll see what Rodney does here game 2 versus just the raw power level of Eldrazi. Really capable of having some busted draws of its own. Particularly Thought-Knot Seer is a card to be concerned with. And Cavern of Souls can make all of these Eldrazi uncounterable, which can also be quite the issue. So Wasteland taking out Justin's first land drop. Rodney happy to play a slow and steady game. Justin thinking through his land. Looks like a Glimmer Post to me. And it is. He gains a point of life. Factory on the other side. Happy to reclaim that life later. And a waste. 2 mana Grim Monolith into Trinisphere. Looks like we'll be playing under Trinisphere here. Rodney choosing to shock himself with the Steam Vents to swing for 2. No counter magic going to be available while he's tapped out. He's going to need to pay 3 mana for any of the counters, including Force of Will and Daze. So Daze becomes pay 3 and return an island, or just pay 3. Attacking for 2. And he cannot cast that instant. I believe the same one from earlier. Delver being discarded. So hand tipped. We'll see what Rodney does here. Likely not going to allow his land to be KO'd. And what looked like a Matter Reshaper there. And True Name Nemesis coming down. You've only got 3 mana available to you because of Trinisphere. True Name is a totally fine play with 3 mana. See if he's able to get any more. He is running 3 or 4 True Names in the list. We've got Thought-Knot Seer showing Dismember. We may have gotten our lighting issue fixed for future videos. Thanks to my wife Megan for bringing in some black poster board to be able to block things off. Looks like that really brings things a bit more into focus. I think once we get the camera directly overhead, we're really going to be getting there with this presentation. Been a fun journey up to this point. Just continually trying to improve the look of these videos. We're really close here. A Vesuva or Cloud Post there, and All Is Dust, actually an answer for True Name. Rodney Dismembering in response. Not a ton of utility in that. The extra card not going to be able to be used even if it's Force of Will. Trinisphere keeping things nice and fair. And Rodney's got another True Name, so not committing too heavily into the board here in case Justin had a sweeper. And we are right back in the same situation. Justin running low on resources, All Is Dust becoming one of the only relevant cards in his deck here in terms of removing the True Name. He's going to need some type of presence to race it, or he's going to need to remove it. That's really what True Name does. Kind of simplifies the game. Ratchet Bomb, not likely to be fast enough here. And a Phyrexian Revoker. So that doesn't stop Factory from animating, but it does potentially trade with the Factory. Looks like Lightning Bolt probably going to be in order. Question here, is it actually better to just be swinging with True Name and finishing off with Lightning Bolt, or just get rid of that Revoker? Sending 3. Wasteland coming down. Justin, just a ton of mana here. Unclear whether it's best to Wasteland and try and set him back a little bit in terms of his mana. It is exponential, so each additional Cloud Post gets more and more ridiculous. Like each of them are tapping for 5 right now. Even with 3 Cloud Posts, very likely he'd be able to cast anything in his deck. And another Revoker. Like end of turn, oh, actually just Spell Snaring it. Trinisphere, a very powerful card. I am not sure Chalice of the Void isn't just better. It's actually an interesting question for Legacy if they were both equally as castable and consistent in the opener. Which one would be better? You'd have a first turn Trinisphere or first turn Chalice, and this type of game kind of draws that into question. Spell Snare still being online, True Name, gets cast the same either way. With the new Mulligan rule, that was something that really crossed my mind is, what happens if we're able to consistently cast a first turn Trinisphere, and I'm actually not sure if it's worse. Not being able to cast 1-mana spells might actually be better than just better off for your opponent than making them cost more. Especially with the amount of basics and lands in the format, unlike Vintage, where Trinisphere was a real monster. You know, a quarter of your mana base at least was Moxes. Here we have a Dismember taking out the other Revoker. We have a Chalice at 3 coming down here, prompting the Dismember. And a Standstill, maybe close to just sealing the deal here. Rodney choosing to keep mana back, expecting Trinisphere representing the counter. See if Justin just charges ahead here. Does not have long. Going to be 2 more turns. Continuing the beats with the true name, adding in the factory here. This will make it certain death next turn unless the true name can somehow be removed. Standstill getting cleared with the... Oh, very interesting. So Standstill actually being used to get rid of... I'm sorry, Ratchet Bomb being used to get rid of Standstill. Not going to wait the extra turn to try and get rid of True Name. Just not enough time. Also would have wiped out the Trinisphere. And we've got 1 more turn. Needs and all is dust. In all likelihood, all is dust or some serious, serious damage to the face. Something like double Reality Smasher. Does not seem like any type of possibility. I believe he's just out of resources here. And Lightning Bolt actually still in hand from before. I was able to hold on to it and dismember those other creatures. So Lightning Bolt able to finish the deal right there. And Rodney picking up round 1 of the first ELD Open from ELD's Time Vault Games.